Welcome your faces back to PomFazzSations. That is so hard to say, so everyone knows. I'll just make it look easy. But I am the Pom, as always. For PomFazzSations to work, I need a fuzz. And I've got the legend that is West Ham Faz. How you doing, me old mate?
Good, man. Real good. Real good. Love Thursday nights. It's, that little tasty treat before a weekend. Everyone loves a Thursday night.
Hey, we've got Lockie Jock here, Lockie Jack, big Liverpool fan. Obviously, let's get straight into it. Is this, Faz, the best Premier League season ever? Like, you brought this to my attention, but European places are tight. The title race is tight. Even, really, with the points deductions, the bottom three isn't even sorted because that Everton, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Luton, like, that's as tight as the top. So, yeah, it's really exciting, isn't it?
Well, mate, the answer is maybe is saying something's the best season ever. I mean, that's pretty hard to remember every season, but it's certainly the best season in modern times because, you think about it, still three teams can win the league. When was the last time we've got to this stage of the season and that was the case? The European places, as you're saying, there's this big fight now for Champions League, especially with Arsenal and Man City getting knocked out. That fourth spot is now a premium. So you're looking at Villa and Tottenham. Then you're looking at the Europa where you've got Tottenham, Newcastle, Man United, West Ham, Chelsea. That's five teams fighting for one spot pretty much. And then, like you said, down the bottom, Burnley and Sheffield, yeah, okay, they're gone. We can acknowledge that, and thanks for coming and good luck next season. Luton, Forest, Everton, 2 points separate them. And then you got Brentford, who a couple of results with a couple of games to go, they might get dragged straight back down into it. And even Crystal Palace, who no one's spoken about, only 8 points clear. That can go away in two games. Two games, and all of a sudden you were back dragged down into it. It has to be. The argument, like I said, easy for everyone to talk about the title race, but the argument for European places and the relegation, it's in my opinion, the best Premier League season in definitely modern memory.
Peter, I know you're a big villain, mate.
Oh, love that.
You know what? I'll go as far to say Unai Emery was robbed. I reckon if they were as patient with Unai Emery as they were with Arteta, I reckon, big call, Arsenal would have won a title by now. I think Arsenal did what United did. Great coach, new coach comes in, not instant success, panic, sack the coach. But you know what, Faz? I was just looking. We say Burnley are down, but it is quite interesting how the fixture is. Burnley play Sheffield United. Right? If they win, Luton play Brentford. And if Brentford win, you would say they are now home and hosed. They're not getting dragged into it. But then suddenly, if Everton beat Nottingham Forest, suddenly a point separates 19th to 16th. And suddenly, so like Burnley might think they're down now. They beat Sheffield United. Brentford do them a favour. It's all for nothing yet.
I was literally, as I was reading it and then trying to drag Crystal Palace into it, because I'd love to see Crystal Palace get dragged into it. I just said, they're 8 points. Burnley are only 6 points from safety. That's two games. Like, it's so tight. So you are right. They could easily get a couple of results. I thought they played okay in their last... who was it against? Their last fixture against Brighton, getting. In fact, their results recently, they've lost one in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One in their last 6 games. There are lots of draws in there, so they're actually in good form. Maybe the great escape from Burnley.
Yeah, you know what? I look at that like this weekend. Like genuinely, if you want to watch football. You kind of spoiled because that Burnley-Sheffield United could be a ripper because there is a game in hand for Sheffield. So if Sheffield win that, technically they're net 21. They're above Burnley. Do you know what I mean? Like, which, depending on results. But Luton, I've got a soft spot for Luton because I have really enjoyed In fact, out of all the bottom 5 teams, they are a team that has held their identity. And you know what? I'm rooting for Luton because part of me doesn't want Everton to go down.
Yeah.
Because they are Premier League heritage, aren't they? And the way they'll go down is 2 deductions, which are harsh.
Yeah. I think that's the best argument. Yeah, the best argument is if they do go down, it's probably because of deductions. I don't really fall into the romance of being Premier League royalty. That's fine. To be honest, I give teams leeway. You say, okay, you have a bad season, go into the next season. But if you are continuously in a relegation dogfight, at some point, I lose any sort of hope for you. I say, well, go down. How many more relegation fights does Everton need to be in before they fix it? If you're not willing to fix it, then piss off and then fix it down there. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
No, mate, I think you're right. But you know what, Luton, what I like about them is I think they'll look at West Ham, right? And think second year, if we can stay in here, obviously you've got better caliber of players. And I think Luton, they play a positive style. Like if you're a young player, like playing in the Premier League, Luton actually play football as well. So you'd look and you go, I also think they're attractive like West Ham, because I always say this, people laugh at West Ham, but I would say out of all the London clubs, you guys make players, legends quicker. If I go to Arsenal, I'm just one of many legends to play. If I go to Chelsea, I'm always in the Lampard shadow. You guys make, and you fall in love, don't you? So if you're at Luton and say you're a championship footballer now, like the Middlesbrough striker who's banging them in, you go to Luton, you're going to be an idol in the Premier League.
And that's what happens. The clubs who haven't had much success or any, you do create that, that want and that home feel, the love for those players. And I love the way they play. I mean, you look at the goals they've scored, 13 more goals than Burnley, 16 more goals than Sheffield United, 14 more goals than Everton, 9 more goals. Like they've scored more goals than a lot of the teams around that area, which means they're good to watch. They play a nice brand of football. I think they're getting the best out of the players they've got. If they can stay up, sign a couple of more Premier League level players, they could start building a nice foundation. And this is what I keep talking about with Everton, like what I said before. I'm sick of Everton. Oh, it's Everton. We've got the right to be in the Premier League. Look at us. You've done nothing decent with your squad, with your finances for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Look at Luton and what they're trying to do. I think Luton have got more of a right to stay in the Premier League at the moment than Everton, because they're playing like they want to be in there. Everton are more holding their hands up, crying foul. We're Everton. You can't get rid of us. Very Carlton-like, oh, look at us. We're a big club. You go, no, you've done nothing. How many more seasons in a dogfight before you can just see you later and give someone else a go?
You know what? Call me harsh, but I mean, they deserve to go down for bringing Dyche back into the Premier League, to be honest.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Bring up Peter's comment for me. All right. Faz didn't think Villa could do both Europe and the league. Mate, talk to me next season. Very easy to do it one season. West Ham did it. One season, played Europa, then finished 6 or 7. Yeah, well done. It's the following season. If you don't invest properly, it's playing one season of 60-plus games. Yeah, most clubs can do it. It's when you get seasons in a row, especially next season where all the European comps are now got 2 extra games because of the change of format. My point is, your squad, you've got to build that squad. And if Villa don't invest, and I'm talking 3 or 4 more players, then the thing will happen. They'll do similar to a West Ham where you'll play in European football, but you'll finish mid-table. And that's the reality. It's not a shit-canning Villa. And do you know what? To be honest, there's still every chance you get knocked out of the Conference League tonight. So it's not like you have won it or anything. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. I think they've had a fantastic season. I think they'll make that Champions League spot, which is great. And they probably should win the Conference League. But let's just see what investment's getting made when big clubs come a knocking for Ollie Watkins. Very similar West Ham losing Declan Rice. When Ollie Watkins goes to a big club because he's English and a striker, let's see how Villa then, invest their money before we start saying, they're going to be in the top 4 or 5 for the next forever. It just doesn't work.
You know what though? Like, I see what Peter's saying, right? I know but also I think you've only got to look. Brighton, they were in Europe. It's absolutely peppered their season, hasn't it? Fulham got Europe. So I do think Villa have got to be applauded there with their depth to be having their best year ever. Right, pretty much. I mean, I can't remember this till like the Paul McGrath days.
No, absolutely. My hat could not be further off to Villa. Could not be further off. I think they've had a phenomenal season, but again, like I said, it's easy to do it once when the emotions are high. Their first season in Europe for a long time. I remember what it was like as West Ham. It's when it starts becoming the norm. The players start getting comfortable. It's all about investing. That's all it is. All about investing, because you'd be crazy to think that Ollie Watkins is going to stay at Villa. As much as I'd love him to, because I hate when players leave and go to the bigger clubs, but it's all about investing. West Ham haven't invested as well as they should. If Villa do, then fair credit to them, mate. I hope they do. I love seeing, nothing gets me more excited when I see Arsenal and Man City getting knocked out of the Champions League. That excites me, but it excites me when a team like a West Ham or a Villa or someone can win a Europa League or a European Conference. That's the best thing. So I'll credit. I hope they're going nuts.
Don't ask me, Pete. I had your 9th in our season preview, and I also had United running Man City to the wire. So, I mean, Jesus. But no, you know what? I'd love Peter, and I'd love your take on this. Champions League football, though, right?
Yes.
You know, the conference football, I'm not going to knock it, because United at the moment, the only cup competition we've got to look forward to is the Midwest fucking preseason trophy next year against Oldham under 21s. So I'm not going to mock you, but what I'm going to say is, would you think, Faz, and you've experienced this because you were in the conference last year, you're now in the Europa, a step up. Do you think if they got Champions League football this year, though, let's just say they finish 4th, suddenly that changes the dynamic at Villa, because I would say you are now coming against, and on SEN with you, I said it, I think Arsenal are out of the title race because they're taking Bayern way too lightly, and going to the Olympic Stadium, the Allianz, you're going to get battered because they're tough to beat. Villa are going to go into that potentially next year. That's going to take it out of you, innit? Wednesdays away, Milan, Barcelona. It's not like the conference, is it? Is it maybe a year too soon for them to play that?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great point, and it's not like the conference, because what I'll always say is this argument comes up about, people say the Premier League is the best league in the world, but look at their teams who get knocked out of Champions League. Yeah, no one for 1 minute said it's the best teams in the world. We're saying it's the best league in the world. Right, there's a reason that West Ham can win the conference and Villa can win the conference, and Liverpool will probably win the. Oh, actually, they'll probably get knocked out by Atalanta, but they go well in the European, because all the other leagues, the German leagues and all that, it's either a 1 or 2 horse race, and the middle teams are no good. So when you make that jump, the Europa Conference League, when you're playing against, Genk and all these, Anderlecht and these teams, they're not in even a different. They would struggle in the Premier League week to week, let alone Champions League. So it's a massive step. It is a year too soon. Look at Newcastle. Yeah, Peter's 100% right. Newcastle, a year too soon, because you try and attract these players. They want to play a certain way. I mean, I know it's going off topic here, but Newcastle this season is nothing short of a debacle for that football club of what's happened this season. It's one thing to go from Champions League, but to get knocked out and not even drop down to Europa, that's a debacle. So, yeah, maybe it's a season too early for Aston Villa, but you're not going to not take it,
You know what? I'm going to give Davey props here because, I mean, he's won the Europa 4 times, hasn't he, Emery?
Yeah.
Like, you know what? If you want a cheeky little investment, if Villa finish 4th, stick a cheeky 50 on them winning the Champions League because, to be fair, right, I mean, I've never put it past Emery. I remember playing him in the Europa final at United, and like you look at the team and you're like, well, batter these.
But I think that
he sets the sides up so well.
But I think the point that a lot of people forget about making Champions League and even Europa is, and I know the format's going to change now with the table rather than the groups, but if you finish 3rd in your group, you get knocked, you drop down to the next tier. So a team like Villa, make Champions League, but just make sure, you might not make it to the knockouts, but if you finish enough, you might be able to drop down to the Europa and then win that. I think that's where Newcastle monumentally failed. They tried to get out of the group stage of the Champions League in a group of death. They needed to win enough to finish 3rd, drop down to Europa, so you're still getting knockout football in Europe to build that squad. But the fact they finished last and got knocked out completely is a debacle. So I think it could all still work out for Villa, making Champions League, but just win enough to make sure you fall down to the Europa League. And then you're playing still good teams, like your Romas will be in there. Your strong German teams will be in there. So your Milans, they'll be in there. And you can win that.
Mate, I agree. And, mate, Villa Park, it's a lovely ground, actually. I agree with you, Davey. It's a lovely ground. Good fan base is there. But you're talking about cups, obviously the knockout cups. I do feel like, and I don't know how everyone else feels or you, Faz, but do you feel like, I was listening to something on the radio the other day. They were talking about, like, the treble, the quadruple, they did it years ago, fucking won the quadruple of cups. And they were almost talking about the Carabao Cup like it was an elite cup. And then it got me thinking, has the FA Cup lost its appeal? Because it used to be, when I was a kid, Premier League, FA Cup, right? Do you know what I mean? It was that. And then there was like a gap. And the Carabao Cup was like the St. Johnson's paint trophy. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one cared. Do you think it's lost the appeal?
It's such a big question. I feel like I could talk about this for ages. So I apologize if I go on a bit of a tangent here, which I always do, but I think it's team dependent again, because when you posed this question to me earlier today, I did really think about it. And I think I have a lot of Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans and United fans, City fans who laugh at me because I celebrate winning the Europa Conference League, right? Get that. They love, it's a Mickey Mouse comp. We would never dignify ourselves with that trophy, but that's a trophy that West Ham can win. Now, would you ever look at a Middlesbrough or a Ipswich and if they somehow won the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, mate, the country would burn to the ground in celebration. But who is anyone the right to say, hey, it's lost its flavour? I think it's team dependent. And I think it's got a lot to do with 6 teams in the Premier League can now play European football. So I look at West Ham and I say, I care more about playing Europa League than the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. But next season, when we're not in European football, mate, I'll be begging to win one of those cups because it's West Ham don't win trophies. So I think it's team dependent. Look, the real answer is yes. They are losing their flavour because FA Cup, even before soccer, football was big in Australia, the FA Cup was televised on TV. It was the big thing, the FA Cup. Everyone spoke about the FA Cup. It's kind of tucked away now, like it's hidden away. No one really, so it has lost its flavour. But with the caveat of, gee whiz, a mid-table team like West Ham would bite your arm off to win one. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking, like, maybe it's because just about every side can qualify for Europe pointlessly. Yeah. But then I also thought, looking at the last winners, have we superpowered teams like Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool so much now that the chances of seeing Tranmere away knock them out are as rare as rocking horse poo. Because I remember you guys, you got knocked out, didn't you, this year by a league side?
Bristol City. Yep.
Yeah, and that was like big news. But when I was a kid, like I remember watching United, and we'd go to Wickham away, and they'd watered the grass. It looked like cows lived on it. But there was something exciting about watching it because these pristine footballers weren't used to it. Where, like, I was watching one of the fourth rounds with a non-league team, and they'd manicured the ground, and I'm like, why? The Premier League teams love that. Make it hard for them.
I remember getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning on a work day to watch Wimbledon beat West Ham in an FA Cup or a League Cup. That's what it's all about for these teams. But I do think you're spot on. The gap between the best teams and the others, it's never been bigger, which is why you're seeing a hell of a lot. And this is probably a topic for another show, but why you're seeing a hell of a lot of the same three teams who go down are coming back. You know, other than the occasional, you know, Ipswich look like they're getting up, but the same three teams, Leicester, Leeds, and Southampton, they all look like they could come back because the gap is so big. Equally, the same three teams that went up all look like they could easily go down, and probably all three will go down. To me, that just shows the gap is so big. It's not that long ago, like I said, you know, when West Ham got promoted, you know, to nearly 12 years ago, where the gap actually wasn't that big. It really wasn't between the top tier and the Premier League and the Championship. You could survive going back up. Now, you get a promotion, you need to completely rebuild your squad before staying up. So, yeah, the gap between your cities, the Liverpools, Arsenals, Uniteds, their depth compared to your Championship clubs, it's never been wider. So when you do come up against even Manchester City putting their seconds team out would probably go undefeated in the Championship. They'd have an invincible season.
Mate, it's sad. It's sad. And Lucky Jack, I mean, it was never as big as the Champions League, right? So, I mean, as a Man United fan who was in the Champions League, we'd still have the Champions League higher. But I would say, I remember, long story short, there was when they first invented the World Club Cup and they brought that back, FIFA really pushed United to be the European representatives on the back of winning the Champions League. So we abstained from playing in the FA Cup, right? Because we couldn't possibly do it. We had to fly to Brazil. There was riots, bro. There was people pulling season tickets. There was sponsors threatening to stop sponsoring United. And even Fergie himself didn't want to do it. It was FIFA who heavily put the pressure on United because the FA Cup was the FA Cup. Like, it is the biggest competition in the United Kingdom, bar that. And it was huge. And as a Man United fan, I'd watch every game. Like, every game that was on TV, League Two side are playing a Premier League side. Let's go and watch it, because it's the only time you get to see Portsmouth play professional footballers. Like, it's for one day, an average attendance of 200 gets to play a team with 80,000 fans. Like, it's a magical comp that I don't think any other competitions like it. I know the German Cup's not the same. They don't like it, but the FA Cup's like 200 years old, man.
I remember. I remember listening to, I think it was the owner for, I'm going to say Oxford or Chesterfield. It was one of those, and a couple of seasons ago, and they had Liverpool come to them away, and they said, we will be able to pay our players for the next 2 seasons from this one game. And that is incredible. From that one game, through ticket sales, through advertising, through television, because you got to remember, these teams aren't televised, but during the FA Cup and League Cup, they're televised, so they get TV rights. He said they can pay their players for 2 seasons now. You could set up an entire club through that. So I think club, are the cups losing their flavor? I genuinely, like I said, I think it's going to be team and fan dependent. Obviously, I can completely understand if a Manchester City fan says they don't give two squirts a piss about FA Cup or League Cup because they're winning the Premier League, yeah? But now they're knocked out of the Champions League. hey, maybe that League Cup doesn't look too bad. You know what I mean? It's a cup. You know, it's a trophy. Never, ever take winning a trophy for granted. Please, anyone listening,
facts.
Take it from you, Pommy, who's seen the most successful team of all time, haven't won much recently. Carlton supporters, you know, we spent 20 years saying, "Oh, we're the best with it." Never take winning anything for granted. Whether it's the Johnston Paint Trophy, whether it's the Carabao Cup, Europa Cup, because the reason you watch sport is to see your team lift something. Yeah, I would have thought that's the reason you watch it. I've got a West Ham tattoo on my leg of us winning the Europa Conference. It's on my leg, right? And I'm not going to have people tell me, "Oh, it's a Mickey Mouse comp." It's the greatest West Ham memory I've got in my life. So I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
Faz, it hits home because honestly, it's so barren at United now. Like, I used to take the piss out of my Tottenham mate who celebrated winning the Asia Trophy. Like, I'd fucking have one back, mate. Like, give me it back. But no, Faz, I think you're a great point. I mean, I look at United, like, for me, I still think the FA Cup is so important. I remember beating Palace. Do you know what I mean? A couple of years ago, what was it, 2016? So, Jesus, it was that long ago. 8 years. Dear Faz. But I remember winning that, and I was absolutely stoked. I was like stripping naked in my living room because silverware is so important. It's so important. Like, honestly, so important.
Especially when, as the conversations, most of our conversations go, and Peter's saying that, especially when there's a massive monopoly on, or from, should I say, your Man Cities, and it's only going to get worse with some of these bigger clubs. I mean, you know, I know maybe a lot of people watching this aren't probably into the Bundesliga, but what Bayer Leverkusen have done, there will be young German kids, and even, you know, people who follow the sport in 50, 100 years' time. Granddad, to tell me about that Bayer Leverkusen team that did what no other team in the history of the game could do. Bayern Munich have a monopoly on that trophy, and they didn't just beat them. They demoralized, they destroyed the league. I mean, if you don't believe in fairy tales and romance in sport, or you think it's dead, just go look at Bayer Leverkusen.
Mate, spot. I mean, a team that was fighting relegation last year. I mean, to do that, great one from me mate Fred here. Who would you take in a fight? Peter Crouch or Rory Lobb? I'm taking Crouchy.
Yeah, Peter Crouch, mate. Have you seen his elbows? Mate, his knobby elbows are enough to kill someone.
mate, I'm taking him. Harry Kane, I mean, before we move on, Harry Kane, I mean, you've got to admit, I mean,
it's a meme now, mate.
Faz doesn't probably care because he is a Tottenham icon, so he hates
I care because he's an England icon.
But genuinely, I can't feel. I do feel genuinely sorry for him. I mean, can you imagine, Joey? Imagine going to a club, probably the only European club that was available, that was guaranteed a trophy by Man City.
What did they win? 9 in a row? Was it 9 or something? 9 in a row, and Harry Kane goes there.
but like, legit, you would say outside of Man City, they were stonewalled to win something. And,
mate, and you know what? They could still very well win the Champions League, which is fine. But it is, you to talk about the fairy tales and Granddad, tell me about Bayer Leverkusen. There will be people saying, tell me about 11. Oh my God. They're like, Granddad, tell me about Harry Kane. Was he really that bad of luck? I'm like, sit down, my son. Let me tell you about Harry Kane. Like, but he will.
Honestly,
he'll win it because Bayern will win it. They'll win the league next season. Like, it's fine. Like, he'll win one, but it's just, it's just funny.
Mate, I mean, it's insane, isn't it?
It's sad, but yeah.
Like, do feel sorry for him, to be fair. I mean, like, honestly, what a bad time to go it. But we digress. We move on. So this one here, coaching, fitness, or players. So I think this is, if you're an AFL fan, as well. It's real relevant. But when do we blame these three individuals? It feels, particularly in EPL, this shifts so much. So if the players aren't performing, that's the coach. But for other teams, that's the players. For other teams, it's the fitness. That's the players. They're not trying hard enough. Oh, that's the coach. He's not motivating them. Do we feel like, because in my opinion, I feel like in today's game, players get the least blame for the things they should, but the most blame for the things they shouldn't.
Yep, yeah. It's a fascinating evolution that we've had as supporters and content creators and discussions and social media about players. I mean, I think there seems to be very little in the middle. It's either the players are shit, no good, sack them, get rid of them, or they're untouchable. There seems to be nothing in the middle, right? They'll sack the coach, whatever it is. One thing I will say to this, and I know people come at me and say they're professionals, they're on squillions of dollars, they should do better. I challenge anyone to look me in the eye and say you've never slacked off one day at work. Yeah. Or there's one staff meeting that you're involved that you think this bloke is talking absolute dross. I'm just going to tune out for a little bit. Then you come to work the next day thinking, oh shit, I probably should have paid attention. Right. Let's be honest with each other. I'm a professional and I've worked over 10 years in my profession and I've slacked off. Many, many times have I slacked off, right? So you look at the players and you talk about like the team meetings they have. And I'll give you an example, not just injuries, but on game day, right? You got 44, let's use AFL, for example. You got 44 blokes sitting in an auditorium who traditionally maybe weren't the best paid attention at school, perhaps, which is why they're such good athletes, because they might not have been the best, academically, which is a very big generalization I had. And they're sitting in an auditorium with a coach saying, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. Here, we're going to move here. This is our strategy. This is what we're going to do. Mate, you would be a moron if you think all 44, yeah, got it. No worries. I've got it under wraps. Let's go out and train it. Let's go out and play it. Like, someone has not paid attention. Someone's sitting next to the bloke next to him drawing a little dick on their notepad. You know what I mean? Like, as if that's not happening. Like,
facts, it will be.
So I mean, they're young men. Think about what you were like at school, man. Like, I work at a school and I still do that shit. Like, come on. Like, they're human. And to expect that they're going to be professionals 100% of the time is unrealistic. So now that's game plan stuff. Now, injuries. Anyone who's had a serious injury or any type of injury would know that the loneliest, boringest, worst, and slowest part is your rehab. If you can honestly tell me that 100% of injured players follow their programs to a T, right? Do everything that needs to be done, do their recoveries correctly, do their warm-ups correctly, mate, you're having a laugh if you think that's the case. Think about when you play sport. All right, lads, go run a couple of warm-up laps. Mate, I was the king of cutting corners. I played soccer for 20 years. Mate, I used to run laps in a circle. I was cutting that many corners, right? It was... But that's what they do. Anyone who's been to training, been to professional sports training, you see, well, he's just jogging. He's just having a laugh. I've seen the Carlton boys muck around trying to trip each other over during the warm-up. But that's what being a part of a team is about. So I think when it comes to injuries and that, a little bit of onus, in fact, a lot of the onus, has to be put on the player, because a doctor, a coach, a physio, whoever it is, can give you a piece of paper and says, this is what you got to do. But unless they're knocking on your door at, 9:30 at night and saying, hey, are you doing that rehab the way I told you to, or are you sitting down playing some PlayStation?
Mate, this is a great point. I went for a coffee with a player on Thursday, and it amazed me, him having a drink, and he was ordering it, was asking the bartender, the woman behind the counter, what ingredients were in there, because it was part of his recovery. So he was like asking what type of sugar it was. And my brain, I was taking the piss, because I remember tearing my intercostal muscles And I remember the physio saying to me, yeah, you want to avoid sugar, particularly like any artificial sweetener. It slows the recovery process down. Did you think I fucking checked that? I couldn't give a fuck, mate. I drank Lucozade. Who cares what sugar's in it? Hey, just drink it. But I was thinking the level of detail this player's going to make sure he is eliminating this to give him the best chance. And then I was thinking, I wonder if they all do this. Do you reckon, like, oh, you've got a hammy, and then they're around their mates, and their mates are like, oh, we're ordering charcoal chicken. And he's probably going, all right, just get me some chicken breast. Do you reckon he's avoiding the Fanta, though? Or is he necking the Fanta and going, tea water?
And spot on. And it's not against them. It's not saying, oh, they're humans, you know, and it is okay to not be professional 100% of the time. Otherwise, they'd burn out. And I think you do see what do some of the greats of their game have in common is their durability, because they're probably professionals 100% of the time, almost obsessive. Where, you know, a few of your X Factor type players, your sexy Instagram players are prone to injuries here and there. Now, taking a photo on Instagram doesn't get you injured, but you know what? Getting a couple of drink cards down at the local, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? My pop used to have this thing where, you know, because when I was a kid, and Faz, you'll remember this, like, there was only rumours, wasn't there, about players? Like, there was never any proof, but you always had the rumours. Do you know what I mean? Like, Jimmy Bullard's done 4 shots before he's gone out and played this weekend. And you'd have some dickhead who'd be like, oh, I saw him in the Vic. And you'd be like, bollocks, did you? You liar. Like, nowadays, obviously, it's on socials, but my pop used to swear by, if after a year after the player retired, if there's rumours of he's lazy, if he was fat, he was lazy.
Yes.
If he was thin, he wasn't lazy. And I always think about that. Like, Thierry Henry looks like he could still play. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And one of the greatest of all time.
But like the other day, I had to tell my wife, because she didn't believe me, that Ronaldo is older than Rooney. Because Rooney came on, and Rooney looks like he's 68, right? And there always used to be rumours at United that he wasn't the hardest trainer, that he was naturally gifted, but he used to have these niggles. And loads of people used to say it's because he doesn't do the stretches. He'd rather go down and have a pint with his mates. And I look now and I go, maybe that was true. Maybe that was true.
You see it. It's, again, you go by what you hear, but Andy Carroll and Kevin Nolan, like, there was always this thing where they would always get red carded or suspended or injured around about Boxing Day and Christmas because they went on a massive bender. I remember watching footage of Andy Carroll at training, and his eyes were as bloodshot as your shirt, right? Lo and behold, the prick was always injured. Kevin Nolan looks like he could bloody bulldoze a house at the moment. He's that big. And he was one of the biggest drinkers going around. So you are spot on. It happens, you know, and even closer to home, you know, Brendan Favola, Dale Thomas, you know, we see it all the time. You know, generally, if that rumor around that you aren't a hard worker, well, if you come out looking like you do when you finish your career, well, maybe it's true, you know? So I think a lot more onus has to be put on the players, because unless they're being watched 100% of the time, which that's unrealistic and actually downright stupid, how do you know? How do you know they're not doing 100% of the recoveries? You just don't. And it would be very frustrating.
Lucky Jack, it'll black your head. He is 9 months from memory. Yeah. 9 months older. Like,
but imagine how frustrating it is. And actually, I'll use it from my profession. I can give all the instructions in the world. I can give the formulas. I can give the strategies and all this. You take home readers, whatever it is. And the kid goes home and they don't do their homework, or they don't do their work in the class. And they come back and say, "Oi, I didn't learn that. That's on you. You're a shit teacher. Why? I didn't learn that." I can't make you do the work. I've given you the resources. I can't make you do the work. And I know people will say, but that's a kid versus a professional, Faz. What's the difference? There's no difference. There's no difference. What's the old saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's the same with professional sports stars. You can give them everything they need, but you can't make them do it.
Mate, and spot on. And this is actually an interesting one, Pete, because I wanted to use you and this as an example, but you look at Aston Villa, for argument's sake, with this coach-player thing. Steven Gerrard was there, didn't get the results, right? Emery comes in, he gets the results. So we can safely say that's a coach's problem. But you look at like United, right? They had Jose, it was a coaching problem. Ollie, right? The same players complain, but it's now a coach's problem. The same players are complaining again. It's a coach's problem, but the players have sacked 4 coaches, right? And always been the ones leaking stuff to the press according to the media. So that's where I ask the question. I agree with you, Fuzz. I think the players are way too protected. Like some players as well, more than others. Do you know what I mean? Certain teams, like I reckon if West Ham, if the players were doing what United were doing, the players would be dragged through hot coals. They'd be like, who's Paqueta? Who's Kudus to talk like this? This is England. How dare they? But it's certain players do it. And then I look at the Chelsea fiasco. I was listening to, I think it was Rio Ferdinand, and he was saying, this is where you've got to look at Pochettino to drill in the respect to the players. But I'm looking, and I listened to Cole Palmer, and Cole Palmer kind of played it off when they were fighting for the ball, saying, we were 4-0 up, everyone wants to get on the score sheet, but I'm the penalty taker. And then Pochettino said, we have to be better. We have a designated penalty taker. And I'm like, I'm listening to Cole Palmer, and Cole Palmer's almost making it sound like he understood why the players were acting like that, because they want to score, where the coach is talking about discipline. I'm like, this isn't on Poch. This is the players who maybe want to work harder and get in position to score a goal against a shit club.
Yeah, that was that was a bad look, and I think it was one of the. I actually don't think it's been spoken about enough, if I'm perfectly honest. I think as far as looks go, it was one of the more uncomfortable things I think I've watched, just in the manner that it was. Like these players were full on going each other, and just in the length of how long it went on for. It was just because we've seen players kind of argue over a free kick or a penalty here and there, but this was pretty full on, and I think to me it says a lot more about those two players and a lot more about those two players and maybe Chelsea than what it does any like the coach or anyone like that, because those two players clearly saw an opportunity to get something for nothing. And as soon as you're in that mindset of, I'm going to get something for nothing, I don't need to work hard and I can get this, well, you're not going to last very long at the highest level, because whether it's Chelsea at home, West Ham at the London Stadium, Luton away, Brighton at the Amex, you have to work hard in this league. And to me, if I was a Chelsea supporter, I don't know if I'd really want to see much more of those two again, to be honest. I mean, I'm not all about, give them a second chance, don't throw the baby out of the bathwater, but they need, or probably deserve, a lengthy club imposed suspension, I would have thought.
Well, I thought
Peter is spot on here, mate. These goal bonus things are out of control. I've got a story about that, maybe for another day, but I've got a story about that. A big one at West Ham. Anyway,
I genuinely thought, like you're saying, Faz, and that I thought that showed me why Chelsea were 9th. Like, I thought attitude that we all want to scrap to score a goal against Everton, who have imploded, but where were you 6 months ago when you were talked about returning to the top 5? Where was this fight and desire to get on the score sheet then? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And if I was watched, I wouldn't want them players there. Like, I'd be looking and go, don't want these in the trenches.
Yeah, you've played your hand. You show what it is, but I do think play goal bonuses. A quick one. Mark Noble was West Ham's penalty taker for 15 years. Always took the penalties when he was on the ground. Anyway, there was a game where West Ham got a penalty and Mark Noble had the ball and Mikel Antonio walked up to him. They had a quick chat and then Mikel Antonio took the penalty, scored it. No one thought otherwise. It was a bit like, oh, okay, that's a bit strange, whatever. Came out that Antonio had a goal bonus that if he got 10 goals, he got a massive, massive payout. So he got the 10th goal and he's, apparently he's to Nobes, we'll split some money, we'll go out, whatever. Anyway, the club ended up fining Mark Noble the entire bonus and made Nobes pay Antonio the bonus.
Yeah, mate, I have no doubt some of that goes on.
It's wild, yeah.
You know what? I said this to my mate. If you were Man City, I'd maybe understand it. If you were top of the league, one hand on the trophy, maybe spread the love. But Chelsea have got to look at themselves. They are in a right mess. They need to... And I love this from Mark. Yeah, they need to show some leadership, some maturity, because you know what? Chelsea could finish 6th, right? Which is a huge win. And to finish 6th, from where they've got to be engaged. They've got to be engaged. They've got to be together. And I was watching that game and I just thought the way Cole Palmer's playing, I'd be wanting him to take it. If I was his teammate, I'd want him to score another goal because he's probably going to lead us to 6th. Like, they've got Arsenal this weekend, the biggest game of Chelsea's calendar. Like, I'd want Cole Palmer on the back of an 8-goal game because surely that comes into it, doesn't it? You'd be looking at Cole Palmer's form at the moment and going, while he's playing like this, we've got a chance.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. The maturity, just the lack of togetherness. But, I mean, let's not forget leadership at Chelsea is a bit few and far between. I mean, their current captain was being shopped around trying to be sold in the summer, if I do remember correctly, in Conor Gallagher. And now he's meant to have the burden on his shoulders about being a leader. So I don't know. So they're clearly lacking leadership in some area. Now, credit to Gallagher. Like, credit to him. He was the one who kind of stepped in, pushed the ball, hey, get out of it, right? So credit to him. But he was probably a little bit too late in the situation. And if you do have strong leaders around, that situation doesn't happen. So, yeah, lack of maturity, lack of leadership.
Wouldn't mind Conor Gallagher at United.
Oh, no, absolutely.
If you want to sell him, Mark, we'll talk, mate. Him next and Manny. But this is the next one I wanted to talk about. I think this is a really important one here. I agree with Mark. If John Terry was there, he would have headbutted someone. Great. I've got actually an interesting story about JT. I got into a little scuffle in York with Joe Cole. And John Terry, one of the nicest human beings I've ever seen, like, came up to my group of mates, apologized, took a picture, and bought us all a round of beers and shots. And I fucking hate Chelsea, but I always respected that because Joe Cole was a little fucking knobhead. But John Terry was all right. But I digress. Personality versus petulance. So what I wanted to talk about here is a bit more on the players, but how the media across, this is all sport as well. They crave a bit of personality. I was listening to Talk Sport the other night, and they were talking that players are becoming robots and monotonous, and we don't have the George Best, the Jimmy Bullards, the Mark Nobles, the Kevin Nolans anymore, who are exciting, and they're like Jack the Lads and Roy of the Rovers type stuff. But then I was thinking, these players, when they do show any form of personality, it's then sold as petulance. So what I mean by that is there's Marcus Rashford going for the beer on the club-approved trip to Ireland for his mate's birthday, which I think 10 years ago, Wayne Rooney was on England duty and asked someone to be the best man so he could have a beer, because that was the only way the England football team would let them have free time if they were going to ceremony. So he asked a fan Could I be your best man so we could get on the sauce? Right? And everyone applauded him for it, going, genius, ingenuity.
Yeah.
Garnacho, the other morning, liked a tweet about him being dropped and being made a scapegoat for Man United. And the press have suddenly praised Garnacho, saying he's in an awkward position because the coach is obviously throwing the kids under the bus and making out. So my question here is, are we very quick to want players to be excited, but do we also hang them with the very noose we wish they'd tie?
Yes, it's the era of the mic is always on, as they say, or the era of, your words can be twisted, or anything you do can be twisted and manipulated. And I'm with you. I mean, and it's across all sports. I know Vladimir Shufal got sent home from international duty because he went out to a nightclub 2 days before the game. I mean, fucking hell. Kevin Nolan and Andy Carroll used to do their warm-ups in nightclubs. Like they'd be going to a game coming home from a nightclub. So it's I just think we're creating this unrealistic expectation of these players, and it actually links to what we were talking about before with the being professional 100% of the time and all that. And we want all the access to them, but the minute they say something we don't like, it's like, oh no, they're not professionals, or they're not, they're sooks, or they're such, they don't know how good they've got it, blah, 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 blah. Like we've caused this as people because we actually don't know what we want. It's like, what did someone say? Your opinion's not wrong. It's just not the same as my opinion. So whatever it is, like that's what's happening. Is like these players are just saying the stuff that people don't want to hear because they just want them to be, they kind of want them to be robots professionally, but say, hey, look at my beautiful family. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Here's into my life. But the moment they're, hey, hang on a minute, you're having a beer with dinner on an Instagram post. No. Like it's...
Yeah, mate, you know what I think sometimes? And I look at footballers across all sports, sportsmen across all sports, and I find it quite hard because when I was a kid, most of these players were working class heroes. Do you know what I mean? They were, most of them were from council estates, a lot of them from broken homes, which helped inspire you as a young kid. Do you know what I mean? Knowing that it's possible not to be a piece of shit. You can be a superhero. I feel like now we've kind of lost that because I feel like they be moved pillar to post. And one of the players I wanted to talk about was Dele Alli as well. Like Dele Alli, like you hear his story last year where he's come out and openly talked about his depression, the physical and sexual abuse as a kid, and the things he's gone through. And you listen to him and you just think, like, we need more players to be like this, a little bit vulnerable, a little bit rough around the edges. But I was listening to a footballer the other day on one of the podcasts, and I was reading the comments, and he was talking about doing shots before a European away day. And it was people pretending to be shocked. And I'm like, but you want them to reveal they made a mistake. And he was saying he doesn't condone it. And looking back, he was an idiot. But it was the way he got ready for a big game, doing a couple of shots. I'm like, you want them to be personalities, though, but then you don't want them to tell the truth. And he's saying it's a bad look. So I just find I think we're going to turn. But what my fear is we turn young kids to be scared of making mistakes because of the way we treat our young sports stars.
No, you are spot on. And I guess it's all about, what's best for the club and all this. But to me, when I was in high school, we used to travel interstate for a carnival, sports carnival and all that. And mate, the best part about it was sneaking out, like going out with the boys, and stuff like that. And I think, I look at gather round just happened in the AFL. Carlton played on the Saturday and then flew home the Saturday night. And I get it, you got to come home, recover next game. Let the boys out. Let the boys out on the Saturday night. I mean, what are they going to do? Because they're so scared. Like you said, the AFL, the teams, but the teams are so scared, that Charlie Curnow is going to get pictured with his pants around his legs, taking a piss against a light pole. Who has, or Cripper's going to get pictured carrying 2 beers across. They're not both for him. They're for his mates. He wouldn't even be in there because his wife had a baby. But you know what I mean? Don't kid yourself. People think that's a sports science thing. It's a recovery thing. A lot of that is the clubs coming and saying, we need to mollycoddle our players. We need to protect them. They go and stay in hotels and they lock the floors so they can't get down. And you've hit the nail on the head. It's because everyone is scared of the mistake. Everyone is scared of what's going to happen on social media, what kickback's going to happen. You see it with simple things like team selection. Clubs turn the comments off on team selection, right? Because of what people are saying. So what's going to happen if someone is posted with a couple of beers or caught with a couple of beers after a game? This is going to be a shock to a lot of people. But these guys drink alcohol. Just a heads up. Right, it's gonna shock people, right? Sit down. I hope you're all you ready for that, yeah? Carlton lost to Adelaide. On Saturday. We know people in and around the club. They were having a couple of beers on Saturday night. It's okay. But they're so scared. They are so scared. They have to do it in secret. They're like this. I've gone out. Hey, can I get a photo with you? And they put their beer somewhere else and then get the photo with you. You see it all the time because they don't want to be seen to be out with a beer. It's madness,
mate. You know what though? I think because you like this and mate, spot on, Pete. Yeah, I mean it's all over the place. Everything's going on, but for me, this is the problem. We are driving all this underground. And once it's underground, if you've got a young 18-year-old in the UK, 18, he's just signed a big contract. So you've got to remember, Lockie Jack had the best comment. They're all human. Yeah. What you did at 18 and the stupid shit you got away with, imagine having 100 times the money, which means 100 times the opportunity, 100 times worse. But then imagine not being able to, and then imagine not being able to fuck up with your mates. You're hiding behind your house, locked away. No one can come in and help you. You do stupid shit that you did when you're 18 without any concern. And I think that's why mental health is so bad in sport. These players cannot let off steam without having to go abroad.
And this is the thing, and by no means do I condone any of the drug use or anything like that. But the amount of videos that get released from sports stars from supposed mates at parties and everything, it absolutely shakes me to my core that you could trust someone and they do that. Thank fuck that they didn't have video phones and all that when I was a teenager. That's all I can say. Thank fuck that wasn't around. Because we all make mistakes. And my dad would always say to me, you always feel safe at home. These guys don't feel safe anywhere because there's always someone with the phone, someone doing that. So as you said, the mental health just gets bigger and bigger because what are they doing? They're stuck at home with their missus. They go to training, come home, lock away with their missus. Go to game, come home, lock away with their missus. I love my wife more than anyone in the world, but I couldn't be locked in the same house all day, every day. You'd go mental, which is exactly what's happening. And like you said, they're putting it underground. Come on, boys, come over to my house, but don't be seen. We'll have a couple of beers inside. Hey, beautiful 30-degree day in the middle of summer. Yeah, we're in the middle of preseason training. Well, don't get caught having a beer with the neighbor next door. I remember, actually, it's funny. Cade Simpson, in the last year of his career, there was a post on Instagram and he was cooking on a barbecue and he was in the lead up to a game and he had an open bottle of a Corona sitting next to his barbecue. And the comments were like, no wonder you fucking won nothing your entire career. You're no good about drinking during the week. He's having a beer at a barbecue. Like, yeah. And it's just gotten worse from there. I think you're spot on. The connection between the abuse and the scared to make a mistake and mental health could not be tighter.
Do you know why I think drugs are higher as well? Because there's something you can do at home a lot easier. Or, like, you can go out and have a few beers with your mates, but drink water and pop a couple of pills. It's undetectable. Do you know what I mean? So I reckon that's why drugs are rifer in sport as well. Because you could, and we've all got them, mates. I know I've got them in my friendship circle that will go out, not buy beer because it's cheaper, and they'll do a couple of lines. Do you know what I mean? I know in my friendship group, that's what some of them do on a Friday or Saturday. They'd rather do that. Drink a couple of Cokes, do a line. And it's undetectable though, isn't it? If I'm out in a pub and I see you and you're a professional footballer, you're eating your lasagna, you've got your water. I don't know if you've popped something though, but for pictures, it looks normal, doesn't it? For pictures. And you're right, Faz. Every time I see a football, I've been with people in the industry as well, and someone comes up and goes, oh, great to meet you. Can I take a picture? And like, he's doing everything he can to make that beer look like it's mine. Do you know what I mean? Because he's scared if you take any. And I'm like, it's fucking December, bro. Season's off. You're not even returned to training. Who cares? But you do know someone sees that picture and goes, oh, this is why he's shit. Or he does his hammy 6 months later. Oh, I saw him in Revolver December with a beer. This is why.
Yeah. What about that trip to Vegas in the off season? You know, that's why you're getting hamstring injuries. It's madness. It's madness. I would love for all these people who make these comments to just allow me into your house for a night and just record everything you do, and then let's have a chat about what your boss thinks you get up to at night. You know, like,
you know, that is a great point you make as well. Like how lucky we are to finish work at 5, and if we want to, we can go and drive up and down our street and kidnap cats. Do you know what I mean? No one cares. Do you know what I mean? As long as we don't get caught. No, I can drink 25 beers tonight.
Yeah.
Vomit out the front of my house. No one cares. But if you're a footballer, that you're never off duty. You're never off duty.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh, exactly right, mate. Rock up to work on a Monday and geez, Faz, you look a bit tired. Yeah. Kids are up last night. Nah, mate, I just sunk 15 beers watching West Ham get beat.
Mate, facts. And it's a sad state of affairs. Do you know what I mean? It's a sad state of affairs. Like, I know some footballers as well in this country that stay up late to watch the EPL, but their curfew is at a certain time.
Oh, right? No.
Right? And it always makes me laugh when you watch AFL footballers train and they're training in soccer guernseys like mine, right? You think all of them miss that 1 a.m. kickoff game? Do they just get up in the morning and go, better check foot mob, see if my team won last night? Or were they having a late night? Yeah. Like, you know what, actually, it's funny you say that because with Patrick Cripps, someone was saying, oh, I hope Monique is letting him sleep. And I'm like, you are incredibly stupid if you think Monique is saying this to Patrick Cripps. Don't worry about it, babe. I've given birth to the baby. I'll also do all the feeds so you can sleep and play football tomorrow. Is she heck?
Nah, mate. That was one of my favorite comments going around. So I'm like, tell me you've never had kids without telling me. You know what I mean? And tell me that you've never been married without telling me either. Like, my kids are grown up. You know, they're they're not babies. I've got work tomorrow. Tell you now, mate, I'm getting a kick in the ass if one of them wakes up at 3 a.m. Can you get up and check them? Your turn. Not, sorry, no, I've got to work tomorrow. No, sorry. And I'm not even playing football. Nah, mate, as if Monique's... If anything, and I mean this with all respect, and he should be the one up at night because he's the one who gets to fly to Adelaide for a night or a day, and she's stuck at home with the kid.
Sleep on the plane, grid. I mean, tell you what, I would actually say my wife would have been harsher when we had babies if I was a professional sportsman, because she would just been like, "You've only got to work 2 hours a week."
Yeah.
I wouldn't even hold the night type things, but you know what? That is all we got time for. But I've really enjoyed that.
So before you go, I was just going to say it was so funny because when Cripper ran out against Adelaide, he had the big bags under his eyes. I said, "Shit, he looks tired." Oh, that's right. He's got a 1 week old. Of course, he's fucking tired.
Mate, he'll be viewing football as a break. To be honest, it's actually a holiday now for him. But,
mate, I love it.
Great conversation, Faz. It has been a pleasure, my friend. My favourite time of the week. We get to chat a bit of round ball. Thank you very much, everyone. Make sure you go and check out Jake on Saints TV because about 2 minutes from now he'll be doing his video crying in the car. It is really a good watch. Just tell him that Uncle Pom sent everyone. He'll really appreciate that. That might set the cry off a bit more. But Faz, you're a legend. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Worries, mate. See ya.